This episode of The Harmonious Gentleman is brought to you by our friends at Blind Man Brewing, the most awarded brewery in Canada. They brew innovative, high-quality, and flavorful beer while working for sustainability through their green initiatives. Blind Man Brewing hosts all kinds of harmonious fun at their beautiful tap room in Lacombe, Alberta. Live music, cornhole leagues, wonderful tacos, or a refreshing pint with friends. There's always something fresh and tasty at Blind Man Brewing.
Well, if podcast episodes were the number of Canadian soldiers killed in combat in Afghanistan, you'd know this has to be episode 158 of The Harmonious Gentleman.
So we're back to the kind of the sad.
Well, it's an
numbers
interesting,
again.
Maybe sobering statistic. Is that more or less than you would have guessed if I had started with a question?
Would not have known where to begin with a guess at all.
Okay.
Because I probably would have guessed more, considering
Yeah,
how
I think
long
I
it
would have
seemed.
too, yeah.
But I also think that that's still...
I think the British lost around 4,300 or something, and the Americans like tens of thousands. So there's, bigger elements of... or regiments or whatever the word is, but Canadians have paid a price there too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to...
Sobering statistic.
Turn it around from that.
Terry's chocolate oranges and now casualties of war.
We are continuing on our marathon. I shouldn't say marathon in a negative way. A really enjoyable day of podcasting with various guests here at King's.
To Tyler, marathons are very enjoyable.
That's true.
Well, they're okay. Yeah.
Are they?
Felt good afterwards.
Okay.
But yeah, we're back again, and I think this will be our last one in our recording studio here. So thanks to Kings again for having us, and for Jonathan to set all this up for us. It's been amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you haven't listened to the last episode with Dr. Jeffrey Dudiak, you definitely should.
Yeah.
That was something.
Yeah, it was awesome. And before that with Jonathan, also very good. So go back, check those out.
Two
either
bangers.
Before or after this one. Yeah.
I can see why you loved him as a professor, Tyler, and it'd be great to take a class from him.
Yeah.
Or
that's
just
cool.
Have a beer with him and talk
more
about...
Sorry, I didn't interrupt you. I
No,
almost
it's all
didn't
good.
even want to ask questions. I just want to say, can you just keep talking about what you're feeling right now?
He really wanted to make sure we were engaged in the conversation, and he said that before, like, please.
Yeah, it's hard to interrupt someone. He didn't want to lecture, and I don't feel like he did, but it was sometimes I just wanted him to.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to stop and wait for us. Like
keep
just
listening.
going.
I happened upon him in the washroom afterwards, and he had the hat on. So
did he?
He wore the hat that we gave him.
He even popped into the volleyball game that we went to in break.
Yeah. Well,
he's a man about town.
Yeah. We have another guest coming very soon. So do you guys have a quick recommendation, which for listeners at home, this is our third recommendation in a single day. I'll actually start if you want.
No, go to Tyler first.
Okay.
Is he ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm going to recommend a show called Jury Duty. And it's a unique show where everyone in the show is an actor except for one person. They are selected to serve on a jury, and they believe that the film crew is there to document what it's like to be a part of a jury, but everyone in it is an actor except for this main character. So it's unique, and I think hilarious, but also worth watching right to the end. Jury Duty.
It's a funny premise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we mentioned it was like a very Nathan Fielder feeling type show.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. But
there are moments that are kind of uncomfortable to watch, but when it's similar to that.
Yeah.
I'm going to recommend, maybe it's like a habit, I don't know. If you're exercising, do you ever feel like you need different types of music for different exercises? Like if you're running, you might want something that has a beat or a pace, but if you're lifting something heavy, I kind of feel like I need angry music.
Yeah.
Or just something that kind of motivates me, like almost...
Like jungle sounds?
Jungle sounds are perfect.
Yeah.
But lately I've gone back to The Offspring, who just have that fast-paced, loud vocalist. And I love their music, like back in the day, and
Did
still do.
you guys have those high school debates, Green Day versus Offspring? Did you ever have those kind of debates?
Like The Offspring would eat Green Day's lunch every minute of the day, I think. But anyway.
Oh, no.
Well, let's talk about that after. But that's kind of my go-to. I do like Green Day also, but Offspring for sure would be my number one.
That's cool. to know that you're wrong on some things. My recommendation is a reminder that Etsy exists.
Okay.
When's the last time you guys were on Etsy?
Don't know that it ever was.
Okay.
Like as
I've
a
used it, yeah.
proprietor
Like,
or a.
it's interesting as a way to find unique products.
Yeah.
I think for years I kind of completely forgot it existed. And I was looking, you're going to make a lot of fun of me now, but I kind of wanted one of those.
Green Day chamois?
Yes. Bandana. No, like for my desk, like one of those large, like sort of elbow pad, mouse pad kind of things. Those like long, they're kind of, I don't know how to describe them, but they cover a huge part of your desk and they're like a soft. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter at all. I was just looking for some.
Like they got kind of that gel inside?
Yeah, I kind of thought that'd be kind of nice. I don't know.
And your first thought was to go to Etsy?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It wasn't my first thought. But I binged it, like looking up.
I'm shocked any of this worked.
I binged custom gel.
Okay.
It's kind of a confession, I
Wrist
guess.
guards.
and combination mouse pad too, right? I want both. This is all a true story. And then Etsy came up as a search result. And I was like, oh, Etsy. Forgot about that. So this gets even worse because I ended up getting like a video game theme one.
That's great.
I recommended the game Outer Wilds years ago.
Okay.
And it was like it's my favorite game ever. And don't laugh at me. But I ordered it and it was on sale. And you know what? This whole...
Is the internet amazing that it connected you with somebody who custom makes
Outer
a
Wilds.
wrist guard based on Outer Wilds?
I didn't get it for the wrist guard specifically.
I love it.
I can tell we've been doing this for a few hours today.
Oh, man.
Oh, that's scraping the bottom of the old recommendation barrel.
No, that's
You're
good.
recommending Etsy, right?
That
Just to be
is
clear.
good stuff.
Well, just reminding you it exists. Tyler, do you have to pause or are we okay?
No, we're good.
Okay. What's happening in a moment?
Yeah, in a moment, we're going to be joined by two guests. Dr. Mark Sandle and his wife, Witty. And yeah, I'm excited for this one too.
Were these professors you had?
No, Mark is currently a professor of history here at King's, and his wife, Witty, has been a part of the King's community for a number of years, but has recently retired and now works in spiritual formation. So
Right on.
Yeah.
So we'll welcome them in and we'll get started.
Yeah, they are here.
Awesome.
This segment is brought to you by Cilantro and Chive. Delicious, creative dishes, a huge variety of locally crafted drinks, and with locations in Lacombe and Red Deer, they're making two communities more awesome. Check out their mouth-watering Burger of the Month, a rotating menu item that satisfies your hunger and supports local initiatives and charities. Cilantro and Chive, fresh, simple eats.
Well, welcome, Mark and Witty. We're so excited to have you. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to give you a question, 3 questions actually.
Okay.
Who are you? Where do you come from? And where are you going?
Okay, difficult questions. So my name is Mark Sandle. I'm a history professor here at King's.
Yeah.
I've been at King's for 17 years. So before that, I was a history professor in England from 1992 until 2009.
Okay.
My specialist field, it was Russian and Soviet history. That was my background and training. That's what I did my PhD in. Wrote a couple of my books on that. But in the last 10 or 12 years, I guess I've moved more into kind of World War II history.
Okay.
So that's really what I've been writing about and researching about. And I teach a lot of courses on the World Wars. So that's kind of who I am. Obviously, I'm from the UK, so, you know, I've got the nice, sexy accent to go with it. Apparently, you're supposed to keep the English accent to make you sound smart, so I'm keeping that. So I did my PhD in England in 1992, then got a job at De Montfort University in the middle of England, and then came over here in 2009. And so I've been in Alberta for 17 years.
Okay.
I've got the scars and the frostbite to prove it, being here. Where am I going? Well, I guess I'm careering headlong towards retirement in a few years. Yeah. But I've still got a lot of research projects I want to do. So even though I may, stop teaching in a few years, I'm going to continue to write. That's really my passion.
Okay. What brought you to history? Like, when did you get that interest?
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting long question. So when I grew up in the UK, it was right up in the north of England, and we were really close to Hadrian's Wall, which is like the big wall the English built to keep the Scots out. A very wise move.
Are you allowed to say that?
I don't know. They can edit it out later.
If you regret it later.
So me and my mum and dad used to go like walking and picnicking, and I was just surrounded by really ancient history all the time back then. So that was one thing. And then the other thing was when I used to go and visit my grandparents in Hampshire, you'd walk from their house into town, and there's like a little sort of passageway between the streets. And on the wall as you walk by, there are these bullet holes that came from like the World War II, like the fighter like strafed it. And I always remember putting my fingers in those bullet holes as I was walking along. I must have been like 7 or 8. And something about that tangible connection to the past, I don't know, always stayed with me. And after that, history was always my passion. At high school, I think it's mainly because I wasn't very good at anything else. So it's like, okay, let's stick with this because I know I'm good at this. And so I've always been fascinated by history, just so kind of curious about the past. And that has just stayed with me ever since I was a little kid.
Okay, cool. Witty, what about you? Who are you?
Gosh, I work in spiritual formation, so that's who am I? That animates my work in many ways. So who am I? So like Mark, I also have a sexy accent from the UK, but I also, my ethnic background, I was actually born in India. So my parents emigrated to England in the 60s, where the streets were apparently paved with gold. But I really grew up in England. I was a baby when they emigrated, so my formative years were spent there until we moved here, as Mark has explained. So yeah, I'm a real mix of things, and we're probably going to get more into that later. My own professional background is actually in career development work. So I went to university, also studied history, which is not how we met, by the way. We went to the same university, that's where we met. And everybody thinks maybe we were in class together or something, but no.
She's the older woman. I'm just going to put that out.
I am the older woman. Maybe we'll get into that later. So after university, I kind of thought, what do you do with a history degree? Right? That typical kind of liberal arts question. I know I'll go into a career where you help other people figure out what they want to do, because I don't really know what I want to do. Right. So I went into career counselling development work, and then that's what I did in the UK right from my 20s up until we moved here. Worked with pretty much every age group conceivable. My job before we moved was working in actually the university where we met, ironically, the University of Warwick. Shout out to the University of Warwick. And I worked there. Then we moved here, worked in student life at King's. And then we actually opened a Centre for Career and Calling back in 2020. And I headed up that work here.
Was that here at King's?
That was here at King's,
okay, yeah.
Until I call it my semi-retirement plan, which I did this time last year, so that I could focus more on spiritual formation work and spiritual direction work. I picked up a master's along the way in spiritual formation, so just for funsies, you know. So, yeah.
I have why'd you move to Alberta?
That's what
or
a
Edmonton?
Fantastic question. I literally said to Mark earlier, why are we allowed to swear on this podcast? Why the hell did we move here again, you know?
Well, I should... we'd come to Canada for a holiday in 2001. We did the Niagara thing and the Vancouver thing and the Alberta thing, and we really loved Canada. So after that, I was always kept kind of half an eye on job openings over here. Nothing really came up. Something came up at Saskatoon, I think, and then our friend said no. So I didn't bother applying to that.
Friend who lives in Vancouver.
Yeah. And then the job at King's came up in 2008. And I've been looking for somewhere where you can kind of more sort of explicitly link the Christian faith with the history piece, because that was always kind of intrigued me, but it's difficult in a public university in the UK to do that. So I was kind of intrigued by the King's thing. But, I'd been knocked back by so many different, I'd applied to New Zealand and Australia and all sorts of places and got nothing. And so I said to Witty, I said, shall I apply? And in her inimitable way, she said, sure, you won't get it, but, just apply.
I did say that.
Yeah. Always the encourager. So I just sent out a speculative application, not really knowing, anything about Edmonton. Only thing I knew about Edmonton was the Commonwealth Games in 1970. That's literally all I knew about Edmonton.
I would seen Cool Runnings.
Yeah, but that's Calgary.
That's Calgary. But
I know, but it's
close, same
Alberta.
province.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Is it close enough? Oh, no, anyway, it's fine.
Anyway.
And then I got an email back saying, sure, apply. So I thought, okay, well, I'll stick in an application. And I came up in the November for an interview. And as you probably know, Edmonton in November is just so beautiful. So many shades of grey and brown that I'd never knew existed. So I came out here for the interview, and I really loved the place. Because obviously King's is tiny. I was, massive public university, 36,000 students in England come to King's, and it's like, oh, this is smaller than my high school. So it was very different, but I just fell in love with the place, and the faculty were great. And so then I just had to go home and say, hey, do you fancy uprooting everything, bringing our stroppy teenage daughter and our 7-year-old halfway across the world? And you said, sure. So
I did.
That's how we came here. Yeah.
We did communicate when you were here, and
Yeah.
you would tell me all these different things, and
Yeah.
I really just had to trust Mark that, because I didn't see the place, but I was up for an adventure. So.
Yeah, you were always up for new things, right?
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, I
And
mean,
he got the job, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Yes.
No one was more
And
shocked than you.
still here.
But I remember looking on the map thinking, oh, that's a long way north.
Yeah.
Being inland. I mean, it's on the same latitude as a lot of English cities, but obviously being inland. Because I've been to Russia quite a few times. I've been to Siberia, and it's like when I got off the plane, it's like, oh, this is Siberia. Like the landscape is all identical, So I'd had a bit of a taste already of. I've been in Siberia when it was minus 46, so it's like, oh, okay, I can do this.
You can do Edmonton in November.
Exactly.
Yeah.
45, so.
Yeah.
After you accepted the job, I do remember this one moment where one of our colleagues here, who's become a dear friend, and it was on Facebook, earlier days of Facebook, and he put something about his son playing football. Was it football or was it soccer?
Well, football, obviously.
I mean, we could
Your
debate that,
football, our soccer,
right?
Yeah.
And it was snowing, and this was in May.
Yeah.
And we looked at each other and thought, what have we done?
Right.
It was too late then. I'd signed the
huge
contract.
It was too late. Too late, yeah.
Witty, what does it mean to work in spiritual formation? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, the term spiritual formation is an interesting one. There's some critiques of it in some ways. We don't have to get into that necessarily. But for me as a Christian, I guess my pithy answer would really just be all the ways in which we're formed into the image of Christ. That's broadly what I would say spiritual formation is.
Okay.
And that, of course, can mean all kinds of things, from the communities that you're part of to the spiritual disciplines that might shape who you are on a kind of day-to-day basis. So it's a pretty broad term.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're working in that, are you trying to increase, improve, direct spiritual formation, or what is the action that kind of comes along with the philosophy?
As a spiritual director,
Yeah.
do you mean? And spiritual director is also a misnomer in many ways. Of course, spiritual direction appears in different forms in different traditions. So I would say it's probably more well known in Catholic circles and some of the mainline, Anglican circles and things like that. Less well known in more broadly Protestant or evangelical circles, but has become more so known. And the reason I say it's a bit of a misnomer is the direction piece. So sometimes people will call themselves spiritual companions rather than director, to get away from that. But essentially you're not really directing anyone in the sense of I'm not telling you what to do or what to think or how to be. I'm really there to host space for people to be listened to. And honestly, I'm in love with the ministry. It's just beautiful what happens when you get out of the way, which is why I say the direction bit is a bit misleading, because really my job is not to direct anything. And so the underlying core belief or set of assumptions around it is that you have the answers inside you. You just need space and time for you to seek your own heart and to look inside. And the real director, if there is a director, and if I can use Christian language, would be the Holy Spirit. So you're really trying to get out of the way. And my job is to observe and to listen, maybe point things out along the way, perhaps, feedback something that I've noticed. But the job really is to, in many ways, just to hold that space for someone. And I think when you do that, it's amazing. It's amazing what happens. It almost makes me tear up. Yeah.
I wonder if that's a good time to segue into the main topic that you guys suggested over email about negotiating difference. I think I have that right. Is that what you suggested?
Yep.
Can you explain what you were thinking with that? What's this? What does that mean?
I think for both of us, in both our personal lives and in our professional lives, that notion of difference is kind of central to what we do and who we are. And even, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, even in our kind of marriage. So it's our 40th wedding anniversary this year in August. And yet we're, on one level, very, very different people. But it's really worked. And so there's that personal angle to difference, but also your work with the Enneagram and spiritual direction is a lot about holding that space for different kind of personalities and different people's approaches to spirituality. And then for me, one of my favorite quotes about history and being a historian is that history is about this negotiation between strangeness and familiarity, and that all that we do as historians is trying to lead people into that space between what is strange and unknown and what is familiar. And so it just seemed to be like something we could hang both our personal relationship on, but also our professional personas too.
Cool.
Yeah, and to add to that, I think just our landscape, right now is full of negotiating differences in so many ways, right? Although having said that, so I'm reading a little bit of Thomas Merton right now.
We do a segment called Recommendations.
Oh, okay.
Which we already did during our introduction for this one.
Right.
But I recommended Thomas Merton.
Oh, look at that. See that?
A few months ago. Yeah,
Holy Spirit is here. So the reason I kind of say a very polarized landscape right now, but part of me also wants to say, hasn't it always been? And so you read somebody like Thomas Merton's work, and he's writing in the 60s, right? The 50s and the 60s. And I've literally just been reading that this week, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, he could literally be describing today.
Right.
Everything from information overload and things, mass media and propaganda and, just all of that stuff that we talk about now. And this computers were just kind of coming in, and there's huge mainframes in big rooms and all the rest of it, but he could be describing today. So in some ways I want to say yes, there's some features of today that are obviously very different, including podcasts and social media and all of those things, and yet fundamentally I think we've always had to negotiate differences in various forms, so yeah.
Do either of you see a difference in how successful we are at negotiating difference through a historical lens or maybe even a spiritual one, that we go through phases of being better at that, or times in history where we are, or are we always working to get better at that?
I mean, really, we both did history.
We did, yeah.
I kind of, it sounds so depressing. No. I would love to say, oh my gosh, we've really learned from the past. I don't know. I don't think we have. And I wish that answer could be different, but I don't know. Everything that you see happening has happened before. And so I wonder about that. And I think for all of our technological advances and, some things have definitely improved, of course. But underneath it all is the human. As humans, we seem to have the same good and bad going on, underneath it all. What about you, Mr. Historian?
Yeah, Mr. Pessimist. We'll
talk about Enneagram in a minute.
Okay, all right. I think, we, I start off with an exercise with my students saying, why should we study history? And they all say, so we can learn from the past. And I always say, yeah, that's really worked out well for us, isn't it? Because, I remember, after the 2008 financial crash, any of you remember 1929? I don't know if you do, but, so these things repeat themselves. I think there are times when we are better at listening to each other than at other times. But generally speaking, the whole kind of human project just seems very much around just shouting at each other and not really being prepared to listen properly and carefully to each other, particularly in public discourse. And I think that's one of the benefits, if you like, or the value of history, is to show us that actually these things need to change, but they can change. But this is not our story so far has not been a great one in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
I think probably what I would add to that is that we can't afford to be complacent. So we could be tempted to think, oh, we're so much better now than we were 60 years ago, or pick a time frame.
Yeah.
And in some ways we are. But I don't think we can, if history tells us anything, is that we can't be complacent. We can't just accept that, oh, we are so much better now, aren't we?
Or that there's nothing we can do because
or
it's
that
just
there's
gonna
nothing we can do, which is the other end, right? Where we might as well all just give up and go home then.
Mm-hmm.
The optimist in me would say no. And there's that, again, that where my faith comes in, my Christian faith would say, yes, history is cyclical and we've seen all this before, but also it is going somewhere. And so it's holding those things together.
One of the things I like to say to my students is to talk about the contingency of history. So we can draw straight lines between X and Y, but there were 58 different paths that could have been taken that weren't taken, but they were still possibilities. So I always like to end my course by saying, another world is possible. The world as it is today isn't how it has to be, because there are always choices, always options. History is open-ended. Nothing is ever kind of determined. So I like to look at that idea of another world is possible as being the kind of the hopeful piece within that.
Mm-hmm.
And I genuinely believe that. And I try to point out that there was this crunch moment. As human beings, they decided to do this rather than that, but that was a genuine option and possibility. Nothing's ever foreclosed.
This segment is brought to you by the King's University in Edmonton, Alberta. Check out King's brand new Bachelor of Kinesiology degree. This integrative, highly practical health sciences program is about preparing you for careers in human performance, sports, and biomechanics. If you have a passion for movement and exercise, visit kingsu.ca/kinesiology.
So, Witty, you mentioned the Enneagram, and you probably don't know this, but the three of us, the Harmonious Gentlemen, we've done an episode sort of about the Enneagram.
Oh, okay.
I think it was in the title somewhere, and it was
Right.
about Marie Kondo organizing her.
That's right.
Different way of
Oh,
organizing.
interesting.
But there was something else. There was a 3-part, like 3 things in the title, but they were all things that we were quite critical of
Okay.
at the time, and
Right.
or that we didn't understand, or we thought, how could anyone, like, these things are overhyped or
Yeah.
something. That was the premise. It was a long time ago, but we were pretty
We've become more harmonious since then.
Oh, I was
Yeah.
going to say, yeah, that sounds harmonious.
yeah.
But at the time, one of us might have been into the Enneagram and 2 of us critical of it. Like there might have been that vibe kind of going on.
Yes.
Yeah, or yes. I think at that time, none of us really knew much about it.
Mm-hmm.
But since then, I've dove in a little bit.
Okay.
So, and now whenever it comes up, these guys kind of make fun of me, or
A little bit.
but
Are you a convert?
yeah, I liked it. I read Richard Rohr's
Oh, yeah.
book on the Enneagram.
Yeah.
And that really kind of, changed my view on it.
So, and you two are the skeptics?
I don't know if skeptic's the right word. I don't know a lot about it.
Yeah.
I just got a little bit tired of people being like, "Oh, I know what you are."
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh.
You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
agreed.
not that they meant anything by it, and it was pretty light.
Yeah.
That was my only experience with
Yeah.
it.
Doesn't surprise me a type 2 would say something like that. My experience is that I really like doing personality tests, like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
strengths finders and the, all the Myers-Briggs, whatever it is. And so I kind of felt it was just sort of the feeling of the time, and I better do it. And I don't even remember what I am now, but I should go back and learn a little
Right.
more.
Yeah, and so we all had a different, like, even there's
Different
you can see the
experience.
difference, the way of looking at it. And I don't like personality tests. I feel like they're contrived. Like, you know what you are already, so you choose your answers accordingly,
Right.
and then
Right.
then you. But then once I started to understand the Enneagram a little more, I saw how it was a bit different from that. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at with the Enneagram.
So I know that you're the interviewer and I'm the interviewee, but can I ask a question then?
Yeah,
So you
just
say-
ask them.
Well, I'm interested to know what changed for you.
For me.
Yes, because you said you kind of got into it and then it felt different.
Well, my first experience with it was like what Graham mentioned. Someone told me the number I was,
Which you should never
which
do,
I didn't.
by the way.
Yeah, which
But
I
yes.
didn't love. So it was.
Happened to me.
No wonder you didn't like it then.
So that my experience with it changed once I understood that it's the only way you can really find that it's more of a gut feel, or it's not like a score thing. So it's not like answer these questions and add up your numbers and that will tell you what type you are. It's
Right.
more what I noticed was reading different books.
Right.
Then I'm like, I could feel which one resonated with me more
Yeah.
than like a test I took.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's how it felt different.
Yeah. Well, first, I think I actually want to say that I love that you had different experiences and views, because that pretty much mirrors the sort of spectrum of orientations towards something like the Enneagram. And I would 100% agree with you that for a while there, it felt like the flavor of the month, which I hate. And even now you still get, if a dog was an Enneagram, what would it be? And all these silly, things that you see crop up. And I mean, they're fine. They're kind of fun. But the trouble is they don't really get much beyond that. So I understand the critique. And it's not for everyone. And I would say that is because it goes deep. It shouldn't be a quick thing. It shouldn't be a quick fix. It's definitely not a quick fix. You sort of need to buy into it, if I can use that word, if you're serious about inner work and growth and development. And I would say if you're brave enough, because actually, and I don't know if this was your experience, Tyler, but the more you get into it, the more you kind of ouch. There's an ouch. And, I've done a few primer sort of workshops with people, and I'll often say, if you're squirming in your seat right now, then it's kind of doing its work.
Well, and that's where for me to figure out where I fit within the Enneagram, that's where I knew was when it was like some of the strengths or some of it, I'm like, yeah, I think that there's like the fun element of it. Like I want to be like this, right?
Absolutely.
These are the things that motivate me. But then when you're looking at the challenges or the more negative side of it, and then it's like, oh, that's where I really know.
Right,
this is
and you sort of have to be prepared to do that work, right? And if you're not, then yeah, it's just going to stay at the level of, if a kitten was an Enneagram type, what would it be? And what Enneagram type drinks what kind of coffee, or whatever it might be. But so my introduction to the Enneagram, so by the way, I'm also an MBTI licensed practitioner, so they're very different. So I do have experience of MBTI too.
What is that?
The Myers-Briggs type indicator.
Okay,
yeah. But my
ENFP over here. So.
Oh, really? Me too. ENFP.
Hey, it's supposed to be about navigating difference.
Sorry. So my introduction to the Enneagram was actually at seminary. I hadn't heard of the Enneagram. So that was, when did I go to seminary? 2016? Was 14?
Yeah, 16, yeah.
Anyway, so we did a course called Knowing God, Knowing Self. And one of the things we did in that was this introduction to the Enneagram. And I was kind of hooked from there. Just became super interested in its complexity. And I think the thing that draws me the most to it is, first of all, that it's not simple. Second, that it doesn't just look at behaviors. So a lot of personality type systems, and I don't want to decry any of them because they all have their strengths. StrengthsFinder is one, right? They all have their place. But the Enneagram seems to hit at some universal truths about human beings. So forget Enneagram, just forget the name, There's just these universal themes. And so, Thomas Keating, if you've heard of him, so he is someone who really has been credited with bringing to life centering prayer, which is a contemplative prayer practice. But he talks about how we all have these core needs, the need for control, the need for belonging. We just have these, the need for esteem, some of these core themes. So forget Enneagram. I think we would all say, yeah, we all kind of want to be in control. We all want to be loved. We all want to be safe and secure. And so we could all just talk about that without ever even mentioning the Enneagram. And I don't want to get too much into the history of the Enneagram, but what I would say is that in its modern form, really what it's done, it's become, it's just this system that has developed, but really it's getting at these core things. And so that's why I find it so compelling, because there's some universal themes, and whether you want to come at it from a psychological standpoint or a spiritual standpoint or a humanistic standpoint, these themes are all there. And so it gets at motivations, it gets at longings, it gets at desires, it gets at fears, it gets at our shadow things that we don't want to look at, which is why I say you kind of have to be brave to do real Enneagram work, and you also have to be patient, because you spend the whole of your life figuring out these things, right? So it's not for everyone. Not everyone can go there, but it's an invitation really to unpack. And why? You could say, well, why? I mean, it's just another form of navel gazing, isn't it? What a waste of time. Get out there and do something. But the point is, even that will tell you something about the person saying it. So then you ask yourself, okay, why is my tendency towards action? Why do I not want to sit for a minute? And, and anyway, we're sort of getting into it. But yeah.
And for me, I'm not going around telling everyone they should do it, but like if I were to encourage someone to, it'd be for the the relational aspect of it, not necessarily just for knowing where you fit, but
Right.
more for knowing how you can relate to the people around you.
Absolutely,
yeah?
100%. Yeah, it's for, and I would say that if you it's a way of loving yourself and loving others, and so it's to enable you to move through the world in healthy ways. That's really what it's about. And if you don't figure out who you are in these kind of deep ways, then you're kind of crashing around and you're hurting yourself. You can end up hurting other people, but inadvertently, because you don't really know. And so I would agree with you, like that's really the ultimate aim. Yeah. And we've both dived into the Enneagram and we're very different.
Yeah, I mean, just when you started doing it, and then I read some of the, I had this moment of like, oh my goodness, like I just saw myself in this description of one of the types, and I'd never seen myself in terms of who I am, and all the quirks, flaws, problems kind of laid out like that. I'm like, how can this person know exactly who I am? Like right there and then. And it was genuinely like a shocking moment in both a good and a bad way. But it also helped me make sense of who I am. Like it helped me make sense of, why do I like sad things? Like, why is that the thing that makes me come alive, right? And then you read about, the type that I am, and it's like, so they say that melancholy is the happiness of sad. And so melancholy is something that gives me the happiness vibe, even though it's a sad thing, right? And so suddenly the reason why I always liked sad, depressing songs suddenly made 1,000% sense to me, because that was the sort of thing that I'm drawn to, kind of thing. Yeah.
And for me, so I'm a 7 for anybody who understands Enneagram. The numbers don't really matter in some ways. You could call them whatever. You could call them colors. It doesn't matter. But do you mind me asking, since you've delved into it a little bit?
For myself?
Yeah.
Well, number 4.
You're a 4.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah.
Yeah.
Melancholy.
Okay. Yeah. And so, so we're just so different, right? So for the 7, I don't want to go there. Like what we're trying to avoid is pain and suffering. Like we, and then all of us have these, whatever your type is, have these defense mechanisms. We have these idealized images of ourselves, and you don't want anything to disturb that. And so we have these defense mechanisms. So for the 7, and I'll talk about myself and the journey I've been on. I remember one of the things, and I don't think we could get into it, but there's healthy, unhealthy, there's different levels, right? I think I've always been, and you've said this too, I've always been sort of average to kind of healthy.
You're
on the whole
way healthier than me.
But
I mean, that's a very low bar.
But I'm not perfect, because nobody is. So minimizing or so minimizing things. Well, what's that about? So, if you say, I've had a really crappy time today, well, at least the sun's out. I mean, that's a very crass way of putting it, but that's a form of minimizing. So I think I'm pretty good on the whole at not doing that, but it's not to say that I've never done it. But when I became aware of that as a defense mechanism or as a strategy, then I started to think more deeply about what are the ways that I do that, even if not to others, actually to myself. So one of the things that confused me when I first started getting into it was, well, this kind of description of the 7 doesn't particularly, I mean, some things fit me, but some things don't. So this pain and suffering thing, it's like, what's this? Because I can sit with other people's pain. Like, for Pete's sake, I'm a spiritual director. So I can hold space for people. I can hear people's, stories and empathy and space and all of those things. But I remember, I think my spiritual director once saying to me, what about yourself? Can you sit with your own pain or suffering, whatever form that might take? So then it was You know, that was one of those little moments. And so that invites curiosity and thinking and going a little deeper. That's why it's a journey. It's not a one-time thing. It's a dynamic system.
Right.
And so then I got to realize, okay, so maybe not so much with myself, right? Like, I don't know. I don't mind sharing. My mom died last year. I'm already starting to lose count. Anyway, the
Year
last
and a half ago.
year and a half ago, and I sort of think to myself, have I actually processed that? Really? You know? The honest answer probably is not. No, I haven't. Now, pre-understanding Enneagram days, you might say, oh, whatever, you move on, get on with it, you know. But I know there's work there to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And I would credit Enneagram work. It doesn't have to be the Enneagram. It can be it can just be sitting with a therapist or a really, really good friend who's fantastic at looking into your soul, you know? But have I done that work? And so for me, I think the Enneagram just gives you some helpful language and tools and ways of entering into that type of work.
So one of the differences is between there are lots. So with suffering, I want to sit in my suffering and I want to wring every last drop of feeling out of it. I want to feel everything there is to be felt about that whatever it may be. And also, Witty is very forward-looking, so she wants to look forward, and I'm past-looking.
Yeah.
I want to look back. I want to remember. I want to have all the kind of feels from the remembering of things. And so we have these completely different orientations to time.
Yeah.
Which is looking forward all the time, and I'm looking back all the time.
And if I do look back, and I do look back,
Oh, we all do both, but
I
yeah.
have more of a nostalgic bent, which totally fits with the more kind of positive outlook of a 7, right? So if I look back, I remember the happy things and the good things, and it's all like nostalgia. And then Mark will come and burst my bubble. You know, I'll say things like, oh, remember the 70s when there was only 3 channels and or whatever it is I'm being all nostalgic about.
Well, and that was all the racism that went with the 70s.
And then he'll go, and then,
Berlin was into East and West Germany.
Right.
Repression, the oil crisis.
And I'll look at him and say, why do you always have to burst my bubble?
No, that's the role of the historian. Coming in to destroy everything.
Yeah, so we have, you know, such different orientations. Even things like movies, you know, watching movies. I want to feel good movie. Now, by feel good, I don't mean La La Land. I love La La Land, by the way. But by feel good, I mean I want justice to be done. I want things to be tied up. I can't
Closure in the end.
I can't stand a movie where the bad guys get away with it. To me,
I love the ambiguity.
Resolution.
Yeah,
I want the open-ended.
Right.
No idea what's going to happen. Just leave it open.
And I just
I hate closing things off.
Have you guys, what was that movie, Arlington Road? Have you ever seen Arlington Road? I feel like this is a movie
We're
that
very
got
old.
missed. It's from a long time ago.
I recognize the name.
Yeah, but all you need to know is that the bad guys kind of get away with it. Sorry, I just probably gave it away.
Spoiler alert.
And
Edit that
I
out.
hated it for that. I mean, it's a really good movie, but I didn't like that that justice wasn't done.
Right.
I loved it because the hero was a history professor, and that
Yeah.
very rarely happens in the movies.
Yeah. Anyway, I wouldn't have identified that if I hadn't been on that Enneagram journey, you know.
Mark, earlier in the episode, you talked about students answering the question, why do we study history?
Yeah.
But what's your answer?
Interestingly, my answer to that question has changed quite a lot over the years. So I guess at a very basic level, I study history because it pays the bills. So, you know, I need to feed my...
There's so many other things you could have done to pay the bills, though. Would it make
I'm
more
not
money?
good at, literally can't do anything else. And this is all I can do. So when I first started in my PhD, I was really interested in ideas, and I did my PhD on kind of Soviet ideology and thinking and how it changed under Gorbachev. Over the years, I've come to be very much more interested in the human aspect of history, and I think part of that is my own journey of trying to find out about myself as kind of synced with my professional life, and what does it mean to be a human being, right? And what can we learn from human beings who've lived in different times and different places. And so when I talk about why should we study history, why is it important, one of the or a couple of things that I say to my students, one of the things I say is that history, it acts as both a window and a mirror. And it acts as a window because we can see into the worlds and the lives of other people who lived in different times and different places. And I always try to communicate that there are these two dimensions, these two kind of dimensions of otherness about history. There's the spatial dimension of going to other places with different cultures and beliefs and values and traditions. And there's a temporal dimension. This is really the kind of uniqueness of history, because it takes us to other times, and times where, so this idea of strangeness from familiarity, we see the strangeness of people living in 14th century France or 5th century, wherever. But we also see the familiarity of people who they want to be loved and they need to get a job and they're dealing with, invasions and all the rest of it. And so history acts as this incredibly interesting window that you can look through to see how did people live, how did they, cope with the problems, how do they resolve their differences. But it also acts as a mirror because history also shows us the things that we have lost from the past and also the things that we have perhaps improved upon. And so it should make us look at our world and say, okay, well, they dealt with slavery really badly. Unfortunately, slavery is still a thing in our world today. So it's so, we haven't solved that issue. We need to solve this issue in our world right now today. Mm-hmm. So there's this kind of window and mirror piece. But there's also, I think, a piece for me about that history is almost like a spiritual discipline in that it should, when it's done well, it should nurture in us these very deep values of empathy, of learning to see people and listen to people. And it should give us also, I think, where it links to the Christian piece. I think history is very much like the parable of the Good Samaritan. And so history helps us to answer this question, who is my neighbor, right? And it's not just who is my neighbor in the present, but it also thinks about who is my neighbor in the past. Can I listen to them? Can I care for them? And so about the same time as Witty went to seminary, I wrote a book with my colleague here at King's called Reforming History. And one of the pieces of that was about how do we study the past Christianly? How does being a Christian make a difference to the way I approach the study of the past? And one of the things that began to kind of stir within me was this idea that actually history is this very profound act of love. And it's this act of love towards the dead. Because the dead are gone. They're silenced. They have no voice. They have no way of defending themselves or putting forward, their views or their lives. They're completely at the mercy of the historian who writes about them. And so I began to kind of think about what might this look like. And so there's this Jewish concept of chesed, which is it's called the loving kindness kind of God. And it's this idea that God's loving kindness cannot be reciprocated. There's nothing that human beings can do to reciprocate the loving kindness of God. And that Hesed is really kind of almost a parallel of the historian's role with the dead people of the past. Because the dead people can't do anything for me. Mm-hmm. They're almost, and so my act of kind of making them present, making them visible, should be an act of kind of loving kindness towards them. But that imposes this really, really important responsibilities on the historian, because you kind of hold their lives in your hands. And so it's up to you to make sure that you're treating them fairly and with dignity and with love and with compassion and with care. And this is difficult because I don't don't know if you noticed, but there's quite a few people in history who've not been very nice and done some bad things, right? So what is the historian's role in kind of making present, making visible the lives of people that, you know, we might find the things they've done completely odious, right, and malign. But can we define people just by those particular actions? So how do we round them out? How do we deal with people whose reputations have been sullied in the past? How do we communicate something about their kind of wholeness as a human being? And so this has kind of radically changed how I think about why I do what I do. And so I see the role of the historian as being this act of love, this act of, you know, the primary question I always ask for my students is, who is my neighbour? That should be your starting point as a history student, and then it all should kind of flow from that. So that's really how my whole kind of philosophy and approach to doing history has just changed dramatically in the last sort of 10 or 15 years.
That's really cool. I like the imagery or the idea of holding someone's life in your hands, like they're completely vulnerable to you, and that I'm not a historian, but it sounds like that's a lot of pressure. Right, to deal with.
I think it makes you take it seriously. And so when I get, you know, students to read primary documents from the past, I say, well, they look just like, you know, squiggles on a page. It's just black lines on white paper, but these are maybe the only words of this person that survive. So your job is to listen to them carefully and read them carefully and read their words lovingly, because otherwise you're just treating it like it's like a machine, right? It's not, you know, that's someone's life.
And that's a lot. That's, I think, parallel to how we should treat each other, like people that are alive. Right. It's not something we just hold for the dead, that they're vulnerable and at our like.
Absolutely, yeah. So one of my favorite quotes is by this U.S. historian, woman called Beth Barton Schweiger. She says that learning to see and listen to the dead of the past is actually practice in helping to learn and listen to people around you. And so it's like a spiritual practice. You learn to listen well to the voices of the dead people around you, but that should not end there. You should also then learn to listen well to the voices of the people in the present, people you disagree with, you know, all those kind of things.
Yeah. That's cool.
I mean, I would add to that that's about negotiating difference, right? So in many ways, studying history it's almost like studying a different language or a different culture. And so you get to practice those skills and bring them into the present. But the problem is that the world around us is constantly trying to subvert that. And the media doesn't help. And so these are skills that we have to practice. And that's why I love the spiritual direction space and the work of spiritual formation. But it's not easy work. I will completely put my hand up to wanting to vent and scream and shout if I see something that I think is just unfair or unjust, or and to kind of vilify people who disagree with, I disagree with. So it's hard work to negotiate differences. It's not just well, you like blue and I like red, and those are insignificant. But what happens when we come up against people who have fundamentally different view of the world to the one that you have? And I think part of that is listening so you can get behind the posturing and the rhetoric, which is really hard to do. Really hard to do. But I think what you're saying about Hesed and about the humanity piece, it behoves us to listen to that today, is to remember that we're all made in the image of God. Now, that's not a free pass. That doesn't mean if you're a jerk, right? You're not. But if you are, it doesn't mean you get a free
you don't
pass
know.
of being a jerk. But we can ask Graham and Tyler about whether you're a jerk or not. But it does mean we all have a story, we've all come from somewhere. There's things that have formed us. And so what's the story there? You know?
I mean, one of the, just kind of riffing off that, one of the things, again, I get to do in the classroom is to say to the students, okay, there are two problems with history. Well, three problems with history. One, it doesn't exist. But second problem is, reading all these sources is difficult. But the third problem is you, okay? Because you are bringing all your assumptions, prejudices, biases, everything with you when you read that document. And so one of the things that we have to learn to do is to recognize that difference between the present and the past, right? And then you have to make that imaginative leap, okay? So you have to think about, how can I see their world, not through their eyes, because that's not possible. How do I look at their world properly through my own eyes? And that is the great kind of lesson also for the present day, is that how can I see someone else's world through my eyes? Because then when you learn to do that, or when you kind of are able to engage in that practice imaginatively, then that enables you to think about, okay, who are the people I disagree with now? Can I see what the world looks like to them? Because if you can do that, then you're in a really good place to begin to actually talk properly to people about that. And history is an incredibly fertile way of doing that practice of learning to see someone else's world, but through your eyes.
Yeah. So we're called the Harmonious Gentlemen, and we kind of just started this actually with our King series, is asking our guests, like, what do you think it mean? What does harmonious mean to you? And I think you've both answered that already throughout this episode, but maybe in a concise way.
Concise.
as possible.
I don't know if we can be concise.
Well, I can, but you definitely can't.
Hey, if we do a word count, I wonder who spoke more.
You definitely.
I'm gonna
let you know.
let me know.
Yeah. Yeah, so what is harmony? And I guess the second part would be more of an active piece. I know I've heard you both say listening, right? But what about we agree. That's something that we've, over 150 some episodes, whenever we try to talk, we talk about listening. But beyond listening, or what are some actions we can take to pursue harmony? But I know maybe that's a hard question, but you guys are up to the task.
Yeah.
You can take a moment if you like. And we'll
Take a moment. Yeah. What does it mean to be harmonious? I think what it doesn't mean is that you shy away from difference or, stick things under the carpet or sweep things under the carpet. That's the phrase, not stick things under the carpet.
You can do either.
Yeah, we can do either.
Yeah.
Because that's a temptation, isn't it? Is just to shy away and let's not talk about this. And sometimes maybe that is helpful to not always get into it, depending on the situation or context. But I think practically, what does it mean to be harmonious? Okay, this may feel counterintuitive when we've talked about listening. Sometimes it's good to step away so that you can be harmonious. So, I know with everything that's coming at us, I come back to the Thomas Merton, that in a way this has always been the case, but what is different today is that it's just heightened. There's so much more, and the speed and all of those things, And so that can lead to a kind of paralysis. It's the more we know actually isn't necessarily helpful in terms of making any kind of difference. And so I think as a spiritual practice, here's my Enneagram 7 piece, right, that I have to check myself on. There's part of me that just wants to run away. So I don't want to hear all the bad stuff that's happening in the world, because it could lead me to despair. And if I go to the despair, will I ever be able to get out of despair? So that's work that I have to do on myself. I recognize that's one of my pain and suffering pieces, right, that I need to work on. But the other piece of that, the positive piece, is not so much running away, but stepping back. Because if I can step back, I can reorientate myself and really focus in on what is important? How do I sift this? How can we get to a place where we can actually listen rather than just hearing all of this stuff that just makes me paralyzed or overwhelmed or anxious, which then doesn't fuel good listening at all. So that's a roundabout way of if you want something practical as a spiritual discipline, might be to step towards harmony. Maybe we have to sometimes actually step back and take a breath and then re-engage.
That's great.
I've got two answers. One is flippant. So remember Harmony is a very famous hairspray in England in the 1970s?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, Harmony hairspray.
Harmony hairspray. I
Do you
think
know
there
what
was
that-
a jingle that goes with it, but I can't remember what the jingle
No,
is.
I can't remember. And I'm not going to sing it even if I could.
Is she wearing Harmony hairspray?
Yeah. The more serious answer is, for me, and this again is my kind of past orientation, I think for me, harmoniousness and harmony comes from either remembering or recognizing that we are all human beings. And so it's about identifying that sense of commonality. Even amidst all the differences, at a fundamental level, we are all human beings. And our humanity should be the thing that is our starting point or our platform or our springboard for investigating our differences, understanding our differences, listening to our differences. But we should start from a point of commonality rather than from difference, and then work through the differences after the commonality.
Great answers. One of the things that I've been encouraged as I've listened to you, as we've chatted today, is your differences, in spite of your very similar accents, but the difference in your backgrounds, some of your training, I guess you had in common, but the way you look back and the way you help people look forward, the way you've allowed the work that you do to form you as well has been to me, that's something I'll take from this as a practice. I want to make sure that I'm not fully packaged as I come to what I do, but that it's forming me too, as I'm hopefully helping to form others. That's a really encouraging thing in a harmonious practice too, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much for being with us.
Yeah, no,
You're welcome.
This has
Yeah.
been fun.
Yeah.
It's been fun, right?
Well,
Sad
Well,
See,
content.
there was the positive, and there you just saw it right there.
It could have
The
been
difference
better.
between
Fun's
us.
doing a lot of heavy lifting there, I think,
I'm an extrovert. He's an introvert.
Yeah.
So this is
Yeah.
kind of like my jam. For you, it's like, yeah, I guess, okay, fine.
Well, do you want to stick around for confessions?
Sure.
Sure.
I think you're going to love this.
The introvert here is dying. Bring it on.
This segment is brought to you by Birdie Coffee. The team at Birdie Coffee is passionate about high-quality, locally made craft beverages. Enjoy a decadent latte, freshly roasted espresso, or something iced and delicious. Located in Red Deer, Alberta, Birdie Coffee Co. is a stop well worth making. But don't worry, if you aren't in the area, you can get their fresh roasted coffee beans delivered right to your door. Head to birdiecoffeeco.ca to learn more, or check them out at the Gasoline Alley Farmers Market, Thursday to Sunday.
You know, sometimes when you're hanging out with people and friends and new friends and old friends and people, you just need to confess things with those people. I'm going to start for you guys. I went with my wife and my mom to London a bunch of years ago. We did a week in London and then a week in Southwold on like the eastern shore somewhere.
Yeah.
Little town with my great aunt, and it was an amazing trip. My confession is that we borrowed my aunt's little car to drive somewhere, and of course the different side of the road was a new
And
thing.
shift.
and it was a manual,
Ooh.
which I could do, but anyway, long story short, the confession is that I didn't do a great job, and I was so kind of rattled by the whole situation, the narrow country road we were on,
Yeah.
that my mom was losing faith in my ability to do this. And she's like an arm grabber in a car. You know those people? Like if something's going wrong, it's your leg they grab or it's your arm. So I think she was grabbing my arm the entire time, but there was a car pretty far away from us heading towards us, and I think my mom thought I was too far over the edge and just started screaming.
Oh my
top of her
gosh.
lungs. love you, Mom. But she just started screaming, like, look out! And the car was so far away. It just grabbed my arm, and I just like hit the brakes, let the car pass, and I just said, nope, I'm not doing this. We turned around, no drive that day, and I didn't. Yeah, that was it. I took the car back. So my confessions, I gave up pretty early in trying. I think I would have gotten pretty good if it weren't for the
screaming
and the indentations in my arm
and the narrow roads. Yeah.
Does this?
I was just laughing.
Does this sound familiar?
I don't scream. I just take a sharp intake of breath.
No. The breath has gone out as well as in on many occasions.
We haven't got to our confessions. Shh.
This is not a confession.
I did love our time there, though. And I want to go
Excellent,
back.
yes.
Other family there.
And they know how to pronounce your name,
They
right?
do very well,
Graham?
actually. Yeah.
Yes.
And my family's more from Ireland, so I had an uncle actually fly into London just for the day from Ireland. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll go back.
Cool. Very cool.
I won't drive, though.
Get a taxi
I
everywhere.
can go next. This is the third part of our Kings series.
Mm-hmm.
So my confession is going to be Kings related. In my first year, so keep that in mind. This is my first year as a student at Kings. I was in a history course, and I think I only attended 3 times.
Wow.
But if I had you, Mark, as
That's
a
2
professor,
times more than some of my students, so don't put yourself down.
Yeah.
Wow, 3 good.
Wait, when did you graduate?
2010.
Oh, so we were here a year.
Yeah.
Oh,
Did you go
2010 is
Professor
when I
Rotary then?
started here.
No,
Professor
well, this
Van
would have
Ogen?
actually been years before.
Oh,
'cause
Professor Gromwald,
If
maybe?
it was my first year, I did a 3-year degree in
Yeah.
psychology.
Yeah.
And I finished that in 2007.
Right. Okay.
And then I did an ed degree afterwards.
Right.
So-
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was skipping
Okay.
these classes would have been way back in 2004.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I don't recommend that, but
You're part of a long, noble King's tradition of skipping classes,
Yeah.
so you know.
Okay.
Good to confess it right where it happened.
It's really good.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
and to
to
a
a
history
history
professor,
professor,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it
That's
feels-
impressive.
Yeah.
2 for 2 there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if you were the professor, I'm
Here
sure
we
I
go.
would have
Here
made it
comes,
to it.
here
at
comes
least
the
5.
flattery.
Is the correct answer. Yeah.
He'll confess to flattery next time.
There you go.
I can go next, and this is it. I'm a spitter. So
gosh.
I don't spit on people. I don't spit
Okay.
on things. But if I'm outside in nature and I'm like going for a walk or something, I will spit. My wife hates it. She knows about it. Now you two too.
Yeah. It's just between
I'm not
us,
going to
though.
stop, probably. I just have always been since I was a kid. And
Are you
get
kinda-
any of you spitters?
Are you trying to water the
No,
the
it's
nature,
just like,
or-
there's excess and I'll
I'll
spit
just
it out.
I'll just spit it out.
Not in a garbage can, like just on the road. Or
Okay.
I try not to do it on the sidewalk.
I used to be when I was playing
think
sport.
that's true, yeah.
I would do a lot of.
There's a lot of
And I
it.
play
A lot of it in
soccer and
soccer.
we all spit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost mandatory, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in the rule book.
Anyway, I know it's gross and I've been told that.
Good job
But-
confessing that, though.
Probably not going to
It's
stop
disgusting, but well done.
also. It is disgusting. I know. When I see other people do it, I am disgusted.
Yeah.
So
And
it's,
yet you just can't help. You need to do deep Enneagram work.
I think I would do.
I wonder what lies behind that
do
behavior.
I never thought about that before.
Should I go next? Do you
Are
want to go
going
next?
be serious? Because mine isn't.
Oh, well.
Do you want to finish
I
on
don't
the
know.
serious
I wasn't going to be serious.
All right. I'll go then. So I have deep shame.
Which is your Enneagram core emotion,
I'm already
actually.
laughing. I
As
know.
you just go to
Shouldn't
shame.
be.
It doesn't matter what it
I'm
is.
just going to stop there.
It's just shame.
That's it. I just have deep shame about 2 things. Even though I'm, English born and bred, there are 2 things about me that I fundamentally am not a royalist, and do not have a Silver Jubilee mug of tea at home or anything like that. And secondly, I don't like tea.
He doesn't.
I don't like
No.
tea.
That's probably huge.
Yeah.
I may have my citizenship revoked, so if you could edit
Still
this
have
out. But yeah, people say to me, "Do you want a cup of tea?" And I have to say,
I don't like tea.
"Sorry, don't like tea."
Yeah. Or bananas.
I'm a bad,
Oh.
but that's not particularly.
No, it's not. But I just thought I'd throw that in there. Tea
'Cause
and bananas.
when you
Invite
think-
Mark for tea and banana
when
sandwiches.
you're thinking about England, Obviously, the fruit that comes to mind
It's a banana.
is a banana, not an apple.
I'm not sure you do feel shame about not being a royalist. I think you actually are quite proud of that.
No, I feel shame about the way I've let down my Britishness.
Okay.
So I've come to Canada to feel shame about.
Did you ever like tea? Ever?
I don't think so. I have no recollection.
Have you
of
drunk
ever
it
liking
though? How do you know you don't like it?
Because literally tasted it. And
Oh, okay, fair enough.
And I don't like it.
And it's terrible. And he spits it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't my confession, but because you said that, I don't like Earl Grey, which people are always shocked at, because it's a kind of classic English tea. But I don't like drinking
Red rose.
perfume. It's just like your normal bog standard good cup of black tea. Yeah. Anyway, that's not my confession. So my confession, okay, is I really love McDonald's fries. I know it's a weakness. I kind of feel guilty about it.
To what degree? Like how often?
I
are
mean,
you
it's
eating
not
them?
like I eat them every day.
Oh,
But-
come on. Fess up.
But we have grandchildren. I know we don't look old enough, do we? But we
No,
do.
that is surprising.
And
We do,
it's
yeah.
the perfect excuse now, because you go get a
Happy
Happy Meal or whatever.
Kids are
And then
desperate for
just-
fruit. Witty's dragging them off to McDonald's.
No,
Put that apple
really
down.
want a McDonald's.
Get those fries down, yeah.
So, I mean, I know that's a bit flippant, but it is true, and I do feel like it's a confession.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
So-
That's what we're here for.
I don't think it's as bad as a spitting thing, though.
Oh,
that
well,
d-
that's-
that does
that's-
take the
that's
biscuit.
Your opinion.
And listeners, if you want to give us your opinion on Chris and his disgusting habits, what are you going to do?
Well, you're probably going to email me directly, but you should email the show, harmoniousgentleman@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
Or
You can go to our Substack, harmoniousgentleman.substack.com. We've got all our stuff there, and you can leave comments and interact. So do it.
And videos.
And videos.
Oh, videos too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You guys are legit.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
Well, that's how we get legit guests like yourselves.
that's right. And we have merchandise, which we'd love to
Merchandise
share
as
with you. So
well.
Mhm.
we need to know you want it. So you need to let us know
Yeah,
by
let us know.
Okay.
texting.
Do we get
Tyler
freebies today?
personally.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was worth
Thank
it.
you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. You've
Looks like-
you've earned the
thank you.
freebie.
Thank you
Before
for
go,
inviting
Like
us.
my
are there
birthday
things
presents.
you have that you want to
Yes.
alert.
Yeah.
That we want to advertise.
Yeah.
Wow. We're not very good at marketing, are we? I mean, I do
I have a book coming out.
You have a book coming out.
I don't know when, but I do have a book coming
Yeah,
out
which-
on World War II, which will be called Humanity and Inhumanity in the Second World War. So
Okay.
it looks at treachery and loyalty and solidarity and cruelty and kindness and
I'm excited for
indifference
that.
and courage
actually.
and
Yeah.
all the different kind of human themes of. So that will be coming out at some point.
You should give
before
these
I
guys
die. I
a signed
don't know.
copy when it comes out.
Yeah.
No chance.
But I'm excited for that. I mean, some of his others, I'm not going to lie, have been a little dry, especially your first one.
Wow.
I read it. I did
See
read
that
it
bus?
because I'm a good wife.
Just been thrown under it.
But I
over
think
there.
this one, anyway. If you want to check out my work, I do have a website.
There we go.
I mean, you can, Everyday Pilgrimages.
Every day. We'll link it on our Substack.
Yeah. I even have a business card.
Yeah.
I
We can put
forget-
a picture of it on
I
our
forget
website.
that I have one though, so I always forget to ever give them. I just the whole marketing thing. I don't know.
They're quite. I use them as bookmarks. They're quite
Yeah,
useful.
they're quite useful as bookmarks. But yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
guys.
Hey,
Yeah.
no,
This
you're
is
welcome.
fun. Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. Well, good.
I have a nice message.
Yeah, we need Graham to end this somehow.
Well, I hope we see you all next time on the next episode of
The Harmonious Gentleman
Podcast.